Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Factorio Bob's Angels, episode 34. So, yeah, it's been 2 weeks for me since I played this. I was pretty excited to load the game up. It's nice having a break from something, you do a lot, but also enjoy, because you come back and you hear that game music, and it's just, it's really exciting. So I was really looking forward to getting back into this, but it did take me a little while to get used to it again after 2 weeks. The premise for this episode is working towards lasers. It's going to be a much better form of defense, and I've decided, that's going to be our main form, rather than doing the whole military train, which I may do for fun at some point, but it's going to be so much easier to move to lasers, and we can stop this shortage of Angels ores coming in, which is kind of down to, the fact that there's a hell of a lot of biters to defend against, and I don't want to produce too much pollution. I do need to finish that slag processing area at some point. I just haven't bothered to do it yet. So we take out the rubite line, which is finally finished mining the starting area patch. So we'll have to look at grabbing some of that at some point. But I believe that we'll run into some in the direction that the main bus is heading. So we shouldn't need to worry about that too much. And, sorry, that's rubite there. No, Bobmonium down there is finished and rubite's just about to finish. There's one miner less. So we need to work on lasers. So I had a look before the episode at what we're going to need to do, and we need the polished gems and stuff and all that up and running, because I don't want to go for Mark 1 lasers straight off the bat. They're just not going to be strong enough, so we need to get that running. And we also need military science packs to actually research it. I can't believe I haven't done military science packs. Now, looking at it, it's some pretty basic stuff, so I really need to get that set up. So we extend the logistics network down the Bob's sub-bus bit, so we can have access to some of the resources here. There's no point creating them up a second time. We might as well just get bots to bring them over, which is kind of a bit silly to begin with, because the bots aren't exactly great at the moment, but they're going to be upgraded soon. And with a bit of research, they'll be faster with greater capacity. So I hope you have enjoyed the last 2 weeks of episodes. I know for you guys it's not been 2 weeks, it's been a day or two. But for me, it's been 2 weeks since I last played. So, but there's been some fantastic comments while I've been away. I appreciate any kind of feedback, whether it be advice on how to do things better, criticism, anything like that. I invite any kind of feedback. So that's great. People are giving me advice, and that's very welcome. A couple of the comments I really liked. The one about the fluid station, I was really intrigued by that. I went and did some testing, and that is a much better way of doing it. Even with the 2 tanks directly on it either side is even faster. It's the fastest way. So definitely going to look at either implementing that in the next station and even changing that other one later on when we start to module things up. Another comment from Thundergun about my power switch, and I totally agree. A circuit on the belt would be much more effective. I've kind of just left the switch in though, and I will do, just because it was a bit of fun really. I've never used the switches before. I've always wanted to when they were first put in to do that, and I'll probably just leave it like that for now. If I do move it to the other side of the lake, which is one of the things I was contemplating, I'll probably use circuits on belts and tier it, depending on how much accumulator charge there is. Another comment was about combination sorting. I am aware of it, and I am going to do it at some point. The only problem with relying on it solely is if you run out of one of those 2 resources, then you get nothing. By having the miscellaneous sorting first, it means if I've only got sapphirite or I've only got javolite, I've still got some copper and iron coming through. And then if I have enough of those 2 ores, I'll then do some combination sorting. Same with copper as well. If I was to go completely combination sorting right now, I'd have no copper, because I have no javolite and I have no crotinium. So I need to go mining that stuff, but in the meantime I need to rely on the miscellaneous sorting to get both iron and copper. And I totally agree, it's not as efficient, but at the moment it's the only choice I really have. And I'll need to go and sort out those mining stations, which I'll do as soon as I have lasers. I want to get on with lasers so that I can really increase the mining that we're doing. I can increase the sapphirite without having to worry about pushing those biters up there back too much. And the same for the crotinium over in the west, which is right next to a wall. If I was to go and start mining that now, that wall would just get ruined. And the only reason sapphirite's working is because I'm constantly going up in between episodes and reloading those turrets and placing ones that get destroyed, which is getting very frustrating and annoying. I need to go and sort that out. But lasers are going to mean I can mine a lot more, and I'm never having to go up and reload and place damaged turrets The only problem with lasers, though, that another issue I need to address to put this in is power. We're already teetering on the edge of just about having enough solar and accumulators, so I really need to increase that capacity if we're going to start using lasers. And I don't know how far off from nuclear I am. I don't know what research I need to do, etc. I haven't looked into it, but that might be another great source of power. But at the moment, I need to vastly increase the number of solar panels and accumulators, which I continue to do a little bit in between episodes, but I need to do something a bit more effective. But I think with a bit more resources, that's going to be a lot easier to do. So we get the silicon powder or silicon carbide setup, whatever that stuff is that I've just shifted over with the logistics robot because I didn't like where I'd placed it initially. We get that set up because we'll need those for the next stage. And I also barrel up some standard water, which probably some people don't approve of, and it's not the best way of doing it, but it's nice and quick and easy, and it just gives me access to water. Anywhere I need it, and just it'll work. So we get that all set up, and we can start laying out the last stage of the processing. This is generally the layout I go for. I think I may have had a slightly better one before, where I didn't use belts, I used chests, but at least this way it uses less chests, and it'll work. So we get that all laid out as well. I've just noticed I had the adjustable inserter enabled GUI for Bob's Mods, and just place those at the wrong distance. But I think I'll notice in a minute when I go and correct it. At least that'll be able to hopefully start making the next stage of grinding wheels for... Yeah, there we go. We just replace the inserters there correctly, and we start producing those. So, yeah, we're bringing those silicon plates or silicon sticks, whatever they are, up quite a large distance with the bots, but it saves us having to make them again up here, and it kind of makes sense because there's quite a lot of infrastructure to create those. So yeah, we'll just get the bots to do it. That's what they're good for. And we get the final and third stage all laid out with the last gear wheel production assembler thing. I might lay these out again in between episodes so they're nice and symmetrical, but again, like I spoke before about things being really neat and tidy and aesthetic, slowing the game down, I need to not have that in recordings because it's just not very enjoyable to watch. But we get that laid out with the resources it needs to create the wheels. While I was rambling on at the start, I did lay out the stuff for the polishing stuff. I can't remember what it is, the stuff made from light oil, and we do request some in a moment, but it doesn't come up because I think I placed some stuff incorrectly down there. I can't remember what it is, but we'll see in a minute what I failed to do correctly. But we put out the requested chest to request that stuff, and then at some point I notice it's not being delivered, and we head down to get that sorted. But in the meantime, we lay out the inserters so that this will all run once everything's coming through that's needed, and we don't really need to worry about it. I also place out the passive provider chest for these with no limit, because I don't really care that these go and fill up a passive provider, because it's the only place I'm going to use the raw product for this. I think I might be wrong there, but I can't think of anything else that uses the raw uncut gems and rubies and stuff. So now we head down to see why this product here isn't being produced, and it's because we're not getting any alumina. So we head down to the passive provider, which we set up at the start of the episode, to go and see why that is. And it turns out it's just outside of the logistics area, which is a tiny bit frustrating, but we get that all sorted. The other thing we did down here at the start was place out passive providers for the sodium chloride, and then put in a requested chest for the alumina, so we no longer have to manually feed that, which we were doing for ages. Another thing we did at the start was put in a passive provider warehouse for the stone brick, so that I can go and do this and paste the world. I don't know why I haven't done it already. It's probably because I don't want to overload the construction robots, but being away, I've contemplated a lot of things, and I'm ready to pave the world in beautiful, lovely stone that is nice to run on. Because why not? We can move to concrete soon and put the concrete in nice, neat places and have these silly little roads, and then have these bricks everywhere to still give us a speed benefit. I don't know if I'm going to bother putting concrete everywhere later on. We'll see how it goes. But as the robots have pretty much finished placing out everything for the sorting area, they've finally got the last of those loaders placed. We might as well give them something else to do and completely overload our power. So, you know, why not? We keep getting attacked up at the Sapphirite. I keep trying to ignore it through this episode. I did try and put a load of stuff in before the episode so that this doesn't bother us. But I get a bit too paranoid and it gets to a point where I feel like I need to go up and have a look. It doesn't take too long at 3 times speed. It didn't even take long at normal speed. So we'll get up there. We'll sort that out. As soon as we've got lasers, we can worry about this area less and less. And we can even push out to the other Sapphirite patch and the Javolite patch up here. In fact, I think there's 2 Sapphirite patches. There's 2 that just popped on the screen there. And with lasers, we really don't have to push as far into the biter field as I have been to access those. So just as long as we've got enough power and strong enough lasers to hold it, because the biters are getting pretty tough. We do have a look at the end of the episode at some point at what the evolution is, but it's pretty high. So we're going to need some pretty good lasers if we're going to depend on them. Hence why it's taken me so long to get there, because I need to do a few things. I reckon it's going to take me this episode to get most of the ingredients needed for lasers and the military science packs. We haven't really got enough iron to do the research, so next episode we're going to be sorting out, you know, the lack of iron that's coming through. But we'll hopefully have lasers in the next couple of episodes. Try and do everything I can in between episodes to make it as quick as possible. But there is a few things I need to address. And then once we actually have the lasers researched, we can see which tier is sensible to go for. Because the higher tier we go for earlier, the less time I have to spend going around and upgrading all the walls every time we have access to a new tier. Another thing I've been reluctant to do, but I kind of cave in and give in, is having a belt of coal going all the way to the power. It is a bit annoying having this belt just randomly running along here. It doesn't really fit with the layout of the factory, but it's pretty stupid having the bots delivering coal there constantly. It's just not working out at the current level, and it's just kind of adding to the power consumption. So it's all kind of a bit silly, really, having the bots do it. I should have just done this from the start. And I get a little bit triggered with the belt not lining up perfectly there, going through there. And I don't really want to lay it out any other way. I'm sure once we get longer underground belts, I'll be able to sort that out. So I place out some passive provider warehouses for the silver and quartz, because the other thing I did this episode was get set up for the next tier of solar panels. We're going to need more power, and they'll be more efficient with the space. You know, we'll get more power for those solar panels. So that's the other thing I lay out this episode, is the production of a higher tier of solar panel. I wanted to do a higher tier of accumulators, but that needs the whole lithium water doing, which is going to need thermal water, loads of processing to do that. So that's not really a priority right now. It's not really something I'm going to look at doing now. I do place out an assembler for it just to create the space. But this whole area is getting messier and messier. At some point, I need to just lay it out again in between episodes so it makes a bit more sense. So there's space for various things to be upgraded. But the kind of row I'm in now is for production of random materials. So this is where we'll do a bit of quartz smelting and a bit of silver smelting, because it's not massively required in huge quantities. I don't think, I'm pretty sure, so long as it's not used in the science revolution or anything. But we'll need silver and glass for the next tier of solar panel, which is going to be handy. Plus, with the layout of solar panels and accumulator, it's kind of a bit accumulator heavy, so it'll hopefully balance that ratio out a bit with a higher tier of solar panel, and we can just keep putting in the current tier of accumulators for now, and that should be all right. So that'll help give us the power we need to run the laser turrets, and hopefully by then we'll have more than enough to deal with the biters, because we don't want to run out at any point if we're going to be depending heavily on lasers, because they'll just be able to push their way through and destroy a lot of resources. So we get that laid out. There is an assembler there doing nothing, which will be for accumulators. I have a little look at doing some science, but because of the lack of iron coming through, I only really want to research stuff I absolutely need. And the next thing we look at doing this episode is military science. We don't have enough resources to run it at all, because again, it's going to use a huge amount of iron, which we'll sort out next episode, but we at least get it laid out so it's going to work. We need grenades, the basic turrets, Mark 0, because I think Mark 1's the next one, and also piercing ammunition. Piercing ammunition is already in production into the logistics network, and it has space to be at least doubled, hopefully, so that should be enough being produced for the science. So we don't have to worry about that. We can get that brought in using the bots. We'll then get the grenades and turrets produced up here, then onto the military science, and then we'll only use robots to then deliver the military science as well as bring in the piercing ammo. So we get these belts laid out, and as you can see, there's an extreme lack of iron coming through. So this is nowhere near going to run at all, but we at least can get it laid out. Then next episode we can look at doing combination sorting for iron, and we can also get the slag processing done and get that producing iron and copper for us, because you can't get it to do iron on its own. I don't think it has to be iron and copper or other stuff, but I'll lay it out in a way that in the future, if we want that to produce other resources other than iron and copper, it'll go into a warehouse that'll only allow the correct resources out onto the correct bus. So yeah, if we're low on gold or we're low on quartz or whatever, we can have that produce whatever we need. And that's another issue. I can't remember if it was just before the episode or during. The iron and copper production stops completely because the slag is completely built up. We've also got another 2 warehouses, or 1.5 warehouses full of slag that's waiting to be processed. So I'll have to make that a pretty big area. But what I'll do before the episode is make sure I have everything crafted to lay it out, and it'll literally be probably like 5 minutes of the episode where I just lay the whole thing out. I've got a design I've always used. One thing I notice here, which is a huge fail, is I never put a limit on the substations. So we've got a full chest of substations there, which is absolutely horrific to look at with these lack of resources. That must have used so much stuff. So I was really quite cross with that. There's a whole full chest of accumulators there. So I don't think that I'm ever going to have a shortage of accumulators. But we'll set it up in a way so that when we go to Mark 2, Mark 3 accumulators, substations. So when we go to Mark 2 or Mark 3 substations, we'll be using all of those before we produce any more, because that is a ridiculous number of substations. I'm quite annoyed that I did that, and I would really love to go back and change that, but I can't. So we'd put a limit on it. I took a few, and we'll never be producing those again probably, because yeah, it's the full chest. So I come up and look for some more resources. I haven't got enough assemblers to do this, so I go and steal some from the science. That's pretty much where all the iron's going to at the moment, belt production and blue science production. So we're going to need to produce a huge amount of iron to carry on. And despite the lack of Angel's ore now is Javolite, I think that's coming in less than Sapphirite. So if I do combination sorting, we're going to be easily running out of those ores, because we're already running out the misc sorting. So we're going to need to look at mining some more, which will hopefully come with the lasers. It's a bit of a catch-22 situation, really. I can't really do one without the other, but you know, we'll just try and do the combination sorting to get the research and stuff done for lasers, and then we can quickly increase the mining to feed that, and yeah, hopefully get through this quite quickly and not be stuck in this stalemate anymore. So we get the layout of everything needed for military science. We're generally going for the usual science ratio I've done so far, which is 1 per second. So if it takes 10 seconds to produce, I think it's blue science, we've got 10 assemblers. I think it's 10, or is it 12? So for military science, it's 10. So each product that takes, say, I think grenades take 8 seconds, so there's 8 assemblers. The turrets take 10 seconds, so there's 10 of them. We're just producing every project to a nice easy ratio of 1 per second. So we get this all laid out. It's not going to run very well at the moment because of the non-existent iron, but it will hopefully work. I did have a look at it at the end of the episode just to make sure it's going to run, because I'd like to be able to just leave it now and go and concentrate on resources next episode, and hopefully just have military science coming through whenever there's enough iron coming in. So we've got the grenades and turrets being produced here. We'll put a requester chest out to bring the piercing ammo over. We'll have to probably increase the piercing ammo production, because I'm going to be needing it as well, so we'll need more assemblers than the ratio calls for, which is fine, just as long as we have enough space for it. If we don't have enough space, I can just move everything about between episodes using bots. It shouldn't be too difficult at all. That's one of the lovely things about bots. You create an area where the layout's correct, but it's just in the wrong position. You can take a blueprint of it, delete it, and just move it. There's no problem at all. And it'll have the resources to build it, because you'll have got the bots to deconstruct it in the first place. So we get that requester chest set up. We get all the inserters laid out for picking up those resources. I did have a shortage of inserters during production of this area, and I've tried to use normal inserters where they're needed. I've put fast inserters on the turrets because they need like 10 cogs, 10 copper and 20 iron or something ridiculous like that. That's just going to absolutely swallow iron up. If the blue science wasn't swallowing it up enough already. But we get that all laid out. Hopefully that's all going to run now and we don't have to come and mess around with it. I come and sort out the blue science. I should have always had this loading onto one side, but I didn't really think about it at the time. And we come and move these over to make some space for the military science so we can get that brought over by bots and start doing the research for lasers, because we should have done this ages ago. I just haven't. We are getting attacked quite a bit somewhere. I think I looked at it a minute ago, but I'll deal with that in between episodes. But we'll have a pretty heavy biter killing episode at some point because we need to access the Javolite down there in the south. And yeah, the big ominous red cloud is building again, so that's going to need clearing up. But yeah, next episode we're going to be sorting out some more iron and getting the slag processing finished. We have a quick look at the evolution, which is now above 0.9, which is very concerning. I'm going to be carrying on with one episode every other day until I get more time to do recording, because I'm quite busy at the moment, but we're going to at least stick with that ratio. But yeah, that's going to be all we have time for today. I do hope you have enjoyed. Please do come and join me next time. Bye-bye.